Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this video will be about how I studied efficiently for my year 12 in high school and how I got A pluses in all of my subjects. I will be giving tips about how to get the most out of your study session, how to study even if you don't feel like it. So stay tuned for that. A quick disclaimer. These clips might look very flashy and my English might not sound the best, but I was trying to change my accent. Doesn't sound very appealing, I guess, so I'm not gonna try this ever again, but I'm just too lazy to revoice this. Tip number 1, don't read the material beforehand. Lots of students tend to read the material before the lecture as a kind of preparation, but you should always try to read it after the lecture and exactly after you finish taking your notes, because it will revise the information in your head and give you a better understanding of it. You can even note after that what you didn't exactly understand and leave it later to ask your professor. You can always add the notes that you took from your reading after the lecture to your original notes as a kind of getting your notes ready and prepared for your exam. Tip number 2, make yourself a syllabus. Even if your professor doesn't provide a current syllabus for your subject, you can always make yourself one by looking up some sample syllabus on the internet and filling in the information out of the table of contents at the beginning of any book and of any subject that you want. Usually the table of contents is the first page in any book. Tip number 3, don't write full notes during your lecture. Never make the mistake of writing full notes during a lecture, because you will always need to change them afterwards. As if for me, I don't take full notes during a lecture, but instead I always write tiny little notes on the side so I can refer to these later. For example, some abbreviations, some little graphs, like an outer look of a graph, not the full graph exactly, so I can copy it afterwards. And I make quick layouts of maps and tables exactly how it looks like, but not with all the information, so I can edit these afterwards. After I'm done with the lecture, I will copy these little graphs and notes that I made on the side, along with the original notes that I take from the PowerPoint that my professor provides, or for example a PDF drive, and I will copy these and I will make a full version of my notes, and I will also add my reading notes after reading the material. I always remember to refer to the number of the page and the diagram when I copy something off the PowerPoint that the professor explains on, so I can refer to that later. Since I use abbreviations when I take quick notes during the lecture, after I copy my original notes, I will make a tiny abbreviation box down the page or at the side of my notes, so I can remember what I referred to when I was studying, when I want to revise what I wrote already. So I make a tiny abbreviations box and I refer to everything and every single term that I use an abbreviation in. After I'm done taking my notes, I can always go back to them and edit some of my graphs and some of the tables that I made during the lecture. Tip number 4, if you want to prepare a lecture beforehand, skim it. Since we already discussed the thing about preparing a lesson and reading it, then you must already know that it is a better idea to read the content after the lecture. In case you're an excellent student and you want to prepare your lecture, you should always skim it and not read it. It will give you an outside idea about what the lesson talks about, and at the same time you won't understand it too much to the point that you will get bored during the lecture. Also, in case you're extra, you can always look up the subject on YouTube and watch a YouTube video about it. Tip number 5, time your study session. If you want to get out the most out of your study session, you should always time yourself. Don't give yourself all the time to finish a specific task. You should always limit yourself with a specific time. A great way to do so is using the Pomodoro timer. And it is a method that offers 25 minutes of work and then 5 minutes of rest. There are lots of apps that offer this method and other methods that I will be mentioning in my upcoming video, as it will be about the best apps and Chrome extensions that I've used during high school, so stay tuned for that. Also, if you're not a fan of downloading stuff on your phone, you could always use the clock that is in your laptop or on your phone as well to time yourself for a specific time. For example, give yourself 30 minutes and set a couple of goals to finish during this 30 minutes. And if you don't finish it, you don't get a break. Also, there is a very handy app that is called Forest. I will also be talking about it in my upcoming video. Tip number 6, save important questions for later. One of the things that helped me the most during this semester was that I used to save important questions for later. I revised them before my big final. I used to take screenshots out of my online learning website where my teachers used to keep our quizzes and tiny exams for later, and they knew we would refer to them someday. And actually, they came in very handy. Some of the questions that were a little bit tough or I made a mistake in during a quiz, I wouldn't exactly want to make the same mistake during the big final. So I used to take a screenshot of these, combine them in one file on my desktop, and then revise them before an exam. Tip number 7, make a question sheet. After a heavy-packed study session, you will always come up with lots and lots of questions. Usually we'd skip these or forget about them or just never look at them ever again. A good thing to do is to pull out a sheet and call it a Q&A sheet where you could write each and every question that comes up on your mind while you're revising and keep it for later where you can ask your professor or your friends. As if for me, I keep a Google Docs file for each subject. I have a Google Doc, for example, for my math questions, where if I take a tutor lesson, I will ask my teacher. Never underestimate these questions because they will help you a lot during your final. And even if you skip these questions, you will find yourself asking yourself the same questions after revising for the second time. Tip number 8, obviously don't procrastinate. I know this is very straightforward, but you should always be on the top of your game. Don't delay stuff for later. Always assign stuff to do it one by one and start by the easiest. As soon as you finish the easiest, you will find that you have finished a big role and that you will have that push to make more. Wherever you are or however you feel, you should always try to find the motivation to finish one task at least. Remember that a champion doesn't have time to procrastinate, as well as if you do this right now, you won't regret doing it. But if you don't do it, you will regret it. Just push yourself to achieve the results that you have always wanted. Step number 9, take advantage of productivity posting apps. For example, try to use Quizlet. Quizlet is a great way to change the way that you study it. It allows you to make different sets and also to make a classroom where you can join your friends as well. Such type of learning methods can come in very handy, especially if you're a picture learning person. For me, it is better to see flashcards on a laptop than to see it actually in my hands in paper form. Tip number 10, make revision sheets. A few days before your final and after finishing going over the material, you should make tiny revision sheets. You can put in these sheets every difficult term that you felt that you couldn't memorize, some questions, some complicated diagrams, to revise half an hour before your exam. You can consider revision sheets as tiny cheat sheets for an open note exam. Tip 11. Use your picture learning site. A lot of students tend to learn through pictures rather than text. And if you are like me, you try to learn through your picture side, you can always use mind maps and diagrams, maybe some graphs, to understand better. I use the Miro online mind mapping website in case I want to make a quick mind map. But most of the times I will always make a paper-based mind map. In case you don't know how to make a mind map, you should put the main topic in the middle, along with some arrows directing outside, and you should locate some ideas around it. I find mind mapping as a great way to declutter and organize the information in your brain. It helps you filter what is needed and what is secondary out of the information that you just learned. Tip number 12, increase your productivity before you start your study session. We all have times where we feel down and we don't exactly feel like studying, but motivation is a great way to get yourself to do things that you don't exactly want to do. So one way to do that is I would open my Pinterest and look up study motivation boards on it, and it will increase my motivation and make me want to go. Otherwise, study with me videos on YouTube and study motivation videos on YouTube make me want to study as well. They encourage me by studying them. I have actually uploaded 2 types of these videos on my channel as well, so make sure to check it out. Tip 13. Use one planner only. Sometimes when I go through my planner, I wouldn't exactly find space to arrange more stuff during that day. The solution to this problem wouldn't be a new planner exactly, but instead you should know that there's a problem and that you need to sort out your day. You can't be doing each and everything that is on your list. So in this case, you pick up your planner, write a big sort out my life page in the middle, and try to sort out your life as much as you can and make your priorities first. Tip 14. Color code your planner. Color coding is a great way to sort out your life actually. I usually give each subject a color, where if I can write down more tasks, I will give them this color to know specifically if I want to work on physics this day, I will finish my physics tasks first. And last but not least, clean your study space. I must say that I'm not the tidiest person in the world, but when it comes to my study space, I always keep it clean, at least my desk. A clean space means everything to me when I start to study. I will arrange everything around me, make myself a cup of coffee, and then start studying. After that, I will clean up some of the papers, not all of them. This is me being honest. But before I start studying, I always clean up my study space. There was this famous saying about this step that I don't exactly remember, but I guess it was a clean space, a clean head or something like that, but it definitely gives me a better headspace. So I would start off by piling off the paper that I will need for tomorrow, and then I will arrange some of the pens and put them in their places, throw away some paper, just turn off my laptop. This is the whole thing. I wouldn't do more than this actually. I guess we reached the end of this video right now. Don't forget to comment which step you like the most, and thanks a lot for watching. Bye!